Good evening, friends. Since the initiative of this session was born in Paris at the Congress, the 37th European Congress, I would ask you the permission to start, just to present a few words, and you will speak just after. Would you agree? So at the Congress in Paris, I have the honor and the privilege to invite and meet with our friend Andrej Detela. Out of this, it is a very spontaneous way. I have invited him to a session, and I didn't have any idea about the work we would proceed to do here. And then, after some time, I said, why not a dialogue, which is absolutely live? We have not prepared anything. So you are going to participate into a live experience. Nothing is completely intellectual, because our aim is further than the intellect. So all is live. All is live, and everything which will take place, please do not refer to east or west. We are wearing a vehicle to work on the physical body. He's Slovenian by birth. I am Vietnamese by origin, Chinese from culture, and French as a citizenship. So both of us came from there, as you. So forget about this, because we are working on the consciousness level. And this level, we are one. And we want to take out this uniqueness, and with you as the witness of our working together. All right? So please, Andrej, you want to say something?
The topic of today's discussion, as much as we were speaking about, is, as the title you have read, it's Eastern Spirituality and Modern Science. So why this topic? Why just this? Well, you know, modern science is a kind of a religion of the present time, but it's always necessary to get out of any official religion if we want to live a real spiritual life. So it's more like a burden than a help, such a kind of attitude towards science. So modern science in present time, well, it's quite rational, and there are a lot of problems with this. We can hear a lot about that, but we don't want to go deep into the problems. We want to shed some light from another side, from that spiritual side, so that we see that the origin of science and the origin of spiritual life is the same. And maybe we are living in a kind of a blind alley in modern times, when we think that rational creativity and spiritual life, that these are two different things. Both are originating from the same source. So this is maybe the stress that at least one of the stresses that we want to give in this talk.
I think that this is very important, that we start from the right angle, to have the look, and to see the essence of things, and not on the superficial level. Now, it is really very important in our time, I think, to explore and to ponder not only the wrong side of science, because science is just a discipline, but the attitude of the people can lead to a wrong thinking. You have mentioned very rightly that science has become a religion. What is the religion? In the true sense of the term, the religion is really to relate our essential in the soul, spiritual soul, to the divine. There's nothing wrong. But the wrong thing and corruption came when religion has favored the former side and created many distortion, meaning created fear, for example, and people who follow a religion would act out of fear instead of understanding. What do you think about this? Is the same trend, is it?
Fear is a great problem. Another problem is authority. Authority, because wherever there is some organization, there is a danger that there would be authorities, and those who are below, they want to have authorities because they want to have a leader. The one who is a leader is very self-confident to be a leader, and so no one can really come to truth in this way, because if one wants to come to truth, that is valuable for science and for spiritual life. If we want to find truth, we want to strive from our own standpoint, not from observing what some authority would say. And in science today, I face this problem all the time. It's so rational, and it has become a great machinery, all this enormous scientific system with publishing scientific articles, getting money when these scientists collecting the points for the articles, then they can continue their projects and write another articles. And so this is a huge machinery. And in this machinery, the relationships are very important. Who is above, who is below, the titles, who is PhD, who is not, and so on. And so there is a great problem of authority also in science, and that is a hindrance to serve truth. It's the same problem as in any kind of religion. So we face the same problem wherever we are. So this is again one point that shows that science and religion are following the same rules. So they originate from the same spiritual source.
Science is science. Science normally should have the aim of the searching of truth. Religion also is a searching for the divine. But what has distorted the whole thing? I think that this is a big problem for humanity. I mean the human state of consciousness. But certainly we have the time to come back for this point. I would revert now to this question of authority. Religion, authority, and science. You are very right that the value of a scientist and a researcher now, the value is based on the paper published. And it is absurd, meaning that on the one subject you will find 1,000 papers talking about the same thing, extended very little. And it is like making the soap, you see? And the same thing is there. I mean, that there is nothing to be richer and to add to the subject. We know all this, but still, why is it that people continue to serve the system? The main point here, I would draw the attention that your human consciousness, the human mind, is a victim of ambition. If there is no ambition from the beginning, you are just searching for truth and not for titles, authority. And this authority question has turned to be the scourge of humanity everywhere. You can see in small groups, bigger groups, even for a very small group, there is a kind of powerful persons who want to take over everything and dictate. Dictate what? A personal point of view. And it is destructive for the whole community, because everything on the level of consciousness absolutely communicate together, and this one dictatorship somewhere, it infiltrates to the consciousness of humanity. So we as a citizen, I would say that we have to fight against this system intelligently, otherwise we will be destroyed before by the system itself. What do you think about it?
Yes, and luckily these people who strive for position in society, who are very ambitious, I think that basically they are not happy. So they don't have connection with the divinity inside. So they're striving for something outside, something that. So this is this linear way of activity.
Yes.
So they don't look, don't just remain where they are and observe things very calmly. In that way, they could see the inner light, as one can say. But they search for somewhere very high, very high. I think this is the outcome of historical development, because in very old societies, maybe thousands of years ago, when people were threatened by nature, wild animals and so on, they wanted to have a hero, some brave hero who protected them from these dangers. But
you remind me of a very striking story, and I find it very loving story. May I interrupt to tell this? The story is the story of Chuang-Tzu. Chuang-Tzu is the Chinese seer. It is the last Taoist, pure Taoist. Chuang-Tzu used to dream and ask himself in the dream, where is it Chuang-Tzu or the butterfly? The butterfly is Chuang-Tzu or Chuang-Tzu is the butterfly. And he has written beautiful, egoless pieces of poem and prose. In one of them, he says, sorry, I cannot quote word by word, but the meaning is kept here. He said, we don't have any history to write. Why? Because the whole humanity, for me, it is just a tree. And people who have responsibilities, they are like branches high up there, and the people of the population is branches of the same tree. So we don't need any authority to decide. So therefore, there is no history to be written. You said it is the outcome of history. We have written too much history on our own role and activity.
So this is this linear perception of time.
Yes, this linear perception of time, we have to come back.
Salvation shall come in some distant future.
Yes, tomorrow.
Tomorrow, yes.
Tomorrow, the barber will show you gratis. You see, this is the whole story, whole story of tomorrow. Our concern is not tomorrow. Our concern is not the future. But looking at the present, we have to find out what is inside. Because normally, time is a big mystery, but time is not linear. And I hope we have some time to probe into it, because it is a big element of metaphysics. You agree about it? Yeah. So we are now in the first introduction about science, which has become a religion in the mind of the people. I want to explore this a little bit more. Why is it that people need to follow? You see, it is like a refusal of the capacity of the mind to think for oneself. How can you interpret this phenomenon?
I think that they follow because this is more comfortable.
Easy.
More easy, yes.
Mm-hmm. meaning the rejection of effort.
Yes, yes, yes. And a rejection of responsibility.
So there's a kind of mixture, confusion. Responsibility should be, authority should be something, but not responsibility alone. Yes? Yes. And this is a big confusion. How is it that the human mind rejects responsibility?
That's again a mixture of fear. I think that many people, they don't want to grow up. They want to have parents all of their life. And when they grow up and when the parents die, maybe or they old, they take some authority to their guide.
And repeat the same scheme of the parents.
Yes, yes. It's very easy to make some construction of truth, construction of reality.
You may ask me questions also, because so far I am only the one who asks questions.
Yes.
Yes. It is a kind of rejection of responsibility out of fear, out of rejection of effort. But effort is everywhere. The whole world is based on effort.
Effort, and people, I think they are aware that there is effort, but they think too linearly, I think. So they just focus their attention only in one direction, and somehow they are afraid to just to stop and look around, and so that's a kind of a nervous action.
The mind is panicking.
Panicking, yes.
Panicking.
Yes.
And the mind is lacking, pause is lacking in the mind. This is why people are very fond of meditation. But what meditation? This we have to specify a little bit more,
yes,
right?
Meditation. Yes.
But meditation is a very big notion in the philosophies and great religions in geographically called Eastern part of the world. But I believe at a certain time there is a kind of mingling between Western philosophers and Eastern philosophers. But perhaps it is too long now to go into that. It is historical part, etc. It is too much, too complicated. But if we stay on the essential level, we can see that great philosophers have shared the same great ideas. In the Western world, in the Eastern world, I mean, it is very similar in the essence of things. And then, up to a certain point, the human mind turned out to be too materialistic. And this is the blossoming and the flowering, the success of science. And in any levels, meaning that people need to touch, need to see, and this the victory of Saint Thomas, instead of me to see, to this is what in one side it is good not to be vague and adopt everything as a belief. But in another way, there are things on earth and above in heaven that even our imagination cannot think of. Shakespeare has said it beautifully. So, the human mind at a certain time, easiness, meaning that there is a kind of lack of dynamism. The mind wants to stay at the same level on the scale of evolution, right? Unknowingly to itself, meaning unconsciously. And it is the big word. Yeah.
One philosopher, I don't know exactly, I think it was the French philosopher Henri Bergson.
Bergson.
He said that In fact, the man is not yet Homo sapiens, he is still Homo faber.
Faber,
Faber, the one who fabricates things with hands. So he wants to produce something all the time. He's very active. He cannot stop doing something, even if things are going in total confusion, but he still must...
Yes, want to multiply things.
Yes, multiply things. And this is the problem of modern economy, for instance.
In fact, the word sapiens, sapientia, is not only knowledge, but it is always also wisdom.
Yes.
So the knowledge should lead to wisdom, otherwise it will be dry and sterile.
More than knowledge, yes.
More than knowledge. And this is also the contribution to the human mind of this part of philosophy, meaning that the mind is led from one point, perhaps very prosaic, to think a little bit more on the high level. And when the mind starts to ask questions about itself, then this is a starting point for something.
Starting point, that mental doubt, for instance, that's, the mind stops, and then the mind can perceive differently. So this is the start of intuition.
The key action here is the perception. Why is it that we perceive in a distorted way? Why? Well, it is not for you, but we discuss, because I asked the question for decades. And all the mistakes, all the wrongdoings just come from this wrong perception.
We cling to old ideas, even if there are many new facts that are in total conflict with these old ideas, but we cling. So,
how is it that the mind sees a rope as a snake?
In darkness, yes. not in
darkness, yes. That's a very good answer. Yes, so we need light.
Yes.
We need light to perceive. I don't want to be pessimistic, but some people, even the light is on, they insist upon their perception, the wrong one, saying that you are wrong. This is the real snake, but it is a rope. Well, we are not going to this. It is too much of the kind of sarcastic thing. So coming back to our thing, the main point is the perception, yes? And wrongdoings, mistakes, all come from this wrong perception. I am asking very often, who is perceiving? Or what is perceiving? Try to discuss. I'm not so sure that somebody can answer the question in a very definite way. But I think that the most important point is to ask this question.
Yes. So we are very close to the problems of ego, and because very quickly the ego jumps into this vacancy. I'm the perceiver, but in fact the ego is not the perceiver.
No.
So as soon as we give some form to the one who perceives, this is no more the one who perceives. So
it is not who, it is what. If we say what, then it is more proper. But what is it perceiving then?
So Eastern philosophies, they are saying that there is no difference between the perceiver, the act of perceiving, and the perceived. Neither knower, not knowledge, knowing am I. Formless is my form. I dwell inside the senses, but this is not my home. So this is the song of Shankaracharya.
Yes, Shankara put it like that, but more nearer to us. Ramana Maharshi also insisted upon the indissolubility of the three elements, the knowledge, the knower, and the act of knowing.
Yes,
it is. And we generally separate the two too much. Yeah.
Well, if one wants to see the truth as it is, Tathagata, then there should be no any form between the perceiver and the truth, because as soon perceived, yes, because as soon as there is some form, then this form somehow blurs the truth. So a parable is with the eye. When there is something in the eye, we cannot see clearly. So only with very pure eye we can see things clearly. And the same stands also for the act of perceiving, that we must stand without any presumptions, without any pretension, yes.
Prejudice.
Yes, totally empty. So emptiness is one of the great problems that Western science does not understand what it is. Western, and not only science, Western culture.
You see, science is made of scientists.
Yeah.
And if the Western science cannot understand the emptiness, which is really the prajna, the wisdom, it means that scientists here have not yet reached this level.
So in Western culture, there is a certain fear of emptiness, a great fear of emptiness. When vacuum was invented in the 17th century, a term horror vacui was introduced, fear from the vacuum, and it explained some natural phenomena and so on. So all these stories about devil, about hell and all that, this is based on fear from something unknown.
Yes.
But unknown is just that emptiness. And we should not have fear from unknown.
There is a misunderstanding about the term emptiness, because there is a saying also, saying that nature has horror of the void. Well, it is not the same emptiness. Yeah? And at a certain level, the term emptiness, which is shunyata, does not mean void and nothing. The nothingness is the fullness of anything.
Yes.
And this is this great paradox, which cannot be understood by the human consciousness on the average, is the main problem.
That's very important. Yes, this understanding of shunyata, of emptiness. Because shunyata, as it was understood, for instance, in the Buddhist philosophy, it's this emptiness is full of everything in the universe. It is so full that there is no separation. It's so dense. There is no separation between all of of elements inside, and then it looks like the emptiness. Or so there are many sayings which explain this, because things which are the matter of intuition, of rationality, they're quite often explained by parables, like Jesus also explained many things through parables. Standing of time also, and so on. Yes. And here there is an understanding of emptiness was not properly understood in Western culture and later in Western science also. So
science now, modern science, starts to ask questions about the nature of matter. And I think that outstanding scientists, they are now in the position that either they remain scientists, meaning dealing with matter, or they trespass the thing and they cease to be a scientist, and they fear about this. You see, they are deadly fearing that, to be excluded from the, excommunicated from the community of scientists. But what is matter? If we talk about emptiness, the void, shunyata, what is matter in all this? We come to this, we come also to this point of time. We cannot avoid, because all this interlinked together. What is matter? We cannot give a kind of definition about it. You have to go through all the explanations. What is time? And what is void? What is shunyata? All is linked.
Well, matter. Through this Cartesian distinction between mind and matter, it's mainly believed that there is matter and there is some reason which is observing matter. So this is that old Cartesian, so-called Cartesian paradigm, introduced by Descartes, French philosopher in the 17th century, beginning of 17th. So I think that in modern time, in the last few decades, this is changing slowly. Modern physicists, they are trying somehow to bring both together, but only some brave minds dare to speak about it openly. Most of them dare not. But the one who are trying to fuse spirit and matter, those well, there are many theories, many explanations who are trying to come closer to understanding of this. Most of physicists are important, two important ways of description in physics. Everything which is taking events in physics, in natural sciences, is taking events in space and time. So we cannot exclude space and time. So if you want to...
It is a continuum, space-time.
Yes, yeah. Continuum, yes. And so if one wants to fuse mind and spirit and matter together, then in this in the same moment as spirit and matter come together, in the same moment also time is born and space is born.
But so we are spirit and matter at the same time.
Yes. Yeah. Well,
at the Sankhya philosophy, you quoted Descartes, making the separation between spirit and matter. But modern science come to the point to ask questions whether they can be separated. Reasoning, it is not matter that reasons. There is something else which allows them to ask true questions, to get advanced, to move on. What do you think about this?
Yes, there is a little. I would add something here. There is some confusion in quantum physics about this, because quantum physics is Copenhagen interpretation, which is prevailing interpretation in quantum physics. They are saying that mind is very important, that mind is given the information about measurements, so the mind is perceiving measurements. So what is real is taking place in mind, because with the collapse of this approach can lead us into kind of confusion, because then one may begin to believe that there is only mind and no matter at all, from Copenhagen interpretation, we can very quickly come to such a conclusion. And this is...
It is called extrapolation.
Extrapolation,
yes. It is not scientific.
It's not the solution of this Cartesian paradigm. There is still a separation between mind and matter. Maybe it's even worse. Matter does not exist anymore. There is only mind. So we are still... So we must transcend
there is a theory in Eastern philosophy. It is called everything is mind. Everything is mind, everything is that. But I think that it is a kind of confusion here. Yes. It is not the same. When in the Eastern philosophy, it is not the same at all.
Yes, not the same. Yes. I'm trying to explain this to my friends. Some of my friends, they understand.
They have to read more literature of Buddhist philosophy.
Yes.
It is explained very, very precisely about this. Everything is mind, consciousness, meaning.
The attitude that I was explaining leads to narcissism. Narcissism is very prevalent in the modern Western society, and it leads into a blind alley.
Yes, absolutely. It is absurdity coming out from that, and we can witness at many levels, not only for physics, quantum physics, with this kind of wrong conclusion, but also for philosophy. You see, finished philosophy, we have to abolish philosophy.
Machine working like a machine, in some mechanical way, so everything is connected well, and then we get some final result. Here we are.
Yeah, here we are.
But you said that it would be good to say something about the question of time.
I have the same thought when you raised this question. I was about to say, asking you. That's very, really formidable. So you start from the...
It's one of the most important and most complex and most difficult questions in philosophy, in spirituality, in science also. I think that we are living in some very specific age when we are developing some new concept of time. So this is my personal opinion. Well, there was the so-called cyclic concept of time in old societies, like Egyptian society or old Asian society.
In philosophy also.
Yes.
Time is cyclic, yes.
And in modern Europe and in science, we have this linear concept of time, which is quite problematic from social reasons, from philosophical reasons. We have said already something about this, because we cannot perceive reality if we are following truth through the linear perception of time. We are proceed only towards some goal which we have defined in advance, so we don't see other things at all, and this is so we can make some illusions in this sense. A lot of ideological systems, artificial beliefs, and so on. So
meaning that to explain an untruth, you have to invent another untruth.
Yes. This is endless line of untruth.
It is not lying, but we know that it is untrue. Then to make it acceptable, we tell stories to make it acceptable. And after that, we tell more stories to make the thing. And it is time now to stop, and come to the fact of things. And you are very, very right to raise this notion of cyclic time. Because time, if we take it as in a linear way, it would be absurd. Linear way means it has to have a beginning and an end. Where is the beginning? Where is the end? So we have to tell an untruth. The end is that either you go down or you go up. It is very simple in some explanations. Now, I think that there is the mind with an evolved consciousness can no longer accept time. Is most acceptable because there is no beginning, no end. It to want to know the end. We are in the middle. And yet there is something absolutely mystical in the present. I would not say the present, I would say what is now. Because otherwise we don't have any connection. We cannot move even cyclically. It is in the world of time, and we are a kind of victim of the journey. Unconscious?
Yes. Something more, what does this cyclic time mean? Because I think that it's a little different from the approaches to us in the Old Egypt, for instance. Because their cyclic understanding of time, it was based on natural cycles. Every year the river Nile was making floods, and so they made calendars to define the dates so that they were prepared for works in agriculture and so on. So, and the moon is cycling around the earth and so on. Astronomy was developing. So this cyclic understanding of time was based on circles. Circles, that's again only one line, but
it is going like loops.
Like loops, yes.
Because the loops pertain to the local. The local, meaning the seasons, the Nile, with the floods coming up and down. But these loops of the local nature, it belongs and it depends, all of them depend upon a bigger cycle. I mean that everyone now knows that the Earth, despite the fact that it is moving in our Milky Way, the galaxy, it is not at the same place, the galaxy neither, and it is moving and in a certain number, the polar now. So it is, but it is cyclic.
Yes, but there are many cycles simultaneously. So these cycles are overlapped and they are going in all directions. So we are somehow in the middle of many cycles. So there are streams, flows of time going in all directions, like this.
People, everyone on earth, should learn to be informed about all this, because it widens the mind in such a way that we cannot be linked to the local business. We are linked with the cosmos in a way, because even the seasons, the floods, etc., is linked with the cosmos. I think this is linked with the changing of the paradigm, because now we are always a kind of prisoner of the earth, and we forget our origin from space.
Yes. All civilizations, we are so entrapped into modern economy, which is based on this global trade.
Global trade, but exaggeration on the local level. It is a kind of disruption.
Total disruption.
Total disruption.
And again, it comes from that linear perception of time, because they want to succeed, to earn money. So all that is linear, striving towards some end.
Even Faber.
Not even.
So where are we now?
I had an interesting experience once. I have met in the street one of the most influential businessmen in the world, Rupert Murdoch.
Ah, yes.
The owner of many magazines,
Many.
TV stations, and so on. So it was in a small tourist town in Scotland. He came there just to hide himself for a few days, and I was in the same town just by luck. And so a man from the town pointed, "This is Murdoch." Well, there was his great ship in the harbor, maybe 100 meters long, not a yacht, it was a ship.
A ship.
That was the background. And then here was Murdoch a few meters from me, and his face like this. So in one instant I realized that he is not happy. So there was his wife in the background, but here his face without any spirit, without any happiness, without any radiation.
He doesn't have even the happiness of being anonymous.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So in that instant I realized that the most influential, the most wealthy people in the world have nothing from that
with the reality of things. But in fact, they are living in a virtuality all the time. But the virtuality they are living in can be translated into their own reality, which is still a fake reality. So, what is reality? Can we discuss about this?
Reality must be discovered any moment anew. Every moment.
A French humorist, when asked, "What is your age?" he answered, "I can't tell you, it is moving all the time." Yes, it is like that. I mean that in similarity, how can you catch the real? Because something. Because philosophers, metaphysicians, highly evolved people, they have experience, and they have given the message. The message is, this is the heritage, because out of this message and heritage, we can move on. Otherwise, so we cannot say that it does not exist, reality. There's something true there. But then reality certainly has many levels to be realized. But we talk about the ultimate. Otherwise, all the levels are not real comparatively with the ultimate.
One should be dedicated to explore reality, to really put great attention, but to explore it every moment anew. So the old Greek philosophers were thinking similar as the old Indian philosophers or Chinese, so on. So this is the same thing. But all of them were putting stress that we must. In every moment explore reality, and this is reality. This our own action, how we approach to it. So, but when we put down, when we write an article, this is reality. This is no more reality. Reality
Absolutely.
is what is living in our consciousness in the moment when we discover something. But this is really a new every moment, and this is living through time.
It is living in the timeless.
I think that it's both together, time and timeless. I think that
when you come back to the reality of the everyday life, it is time. But when you are in the thing, it is timeless. Otherwise, you cannot explain.
Yes, it is timeless, but I think that in this timeless realm, time is still existing, but in a different way, in a very, very different way.
Well,
I will.
we can escape.
I will explain.
We can escape using this, because if we say timeless, there's no time, and then if we say we invent this another time, then we change the scale. It is just changing the scale. For me, timeless is timeless.
I don't think about time in this linear way, by minutes and seconds.
No.
I understand time through how should one could explain it in some poetic way, maybe. Emergence of this bliss. So many spiritual teachers are saying something about spiritual bliss. Spiritual bliss is very difficult to explain. I shall say a parable which was said by Ramana Maharshi. Someone has asked him about time, and he replied that the spinning top, that toy that the children use, spinning top, when it turns around very, very quickly, it's standing quite still. And it's standing quite still just because it's turning around so quickly. Apparently it's totally still without time, but it's without time just because there is so much of time inside. This is very close to the concept of shunyata. Shunyata is emptiness, but totally full of everything, of all the beings in the universe.
Perhaps we can make the approach by what Plato said, asking about the question of time. What is time? Plato said, time is eternity in movement. Beautiful, is it?
Eternity. And for instance, the Russian poet Marina Tsvetaeva, she also said this through her poems.
So what? Well, you said something very important a while ago. You said that one has to dedicate to reality. I would like to come a little bit to this. You see, when we do something and we love the thing, we do it better.
Yes.
Yeah. It is obvious. Now, you said that we have to dedicate ourselves to reality. I think it is very, very true in the sense that we cannot obtain any understanding if we do not give dedication to the thing. And giving dedication has another dimension. When one dedicates oneself to something, there's a kind of dissolution of the ego. Because when one dedicates oneself to something, it is not for ambition, it is not for the love of power, it is not for the love of something, and this is a kind of natural dissolution.
One merges with something which is larger.
And it is love.
Yes, it is love.
It is love.
Yes.
Can we say, give some moment for this?
Yeah, this is the solution of ego. Someone merges with something which is larger. And this is at the same time happiness and bliss, because this is the highest state of consciousness, this feeling of being one with the whole. And this is also serving to all other living beings. And this serving gives this bliss back. And this is very, very intense exchange of this relationship between other beings.
What I.K. Temne called the virtuous circle. The virtuous circle.
So artists, when they explain their works for some musicians, when you read the explanations of their music, they quite often say how they are happy when they are playing their music, because they are feeling how other people are merging themselves with their creativity, and so they become one. And so this is taking place in the art, it's taking place in science, in scientific endeavor, it's taking place in spiritual life. So this is the same principle.
Real art is when the artist creates without the ego.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Meaning this dimension of shunyata can be transmitted when another person looked at the work. They can discover it. Meaning that there's a trace of, if there's still a trace of the ego, it is not art.
Yes, yes.
It is perhaps too demanding. But anyhow, so space and time. Since Einstein, it is one continuum. Space-time. We don't say space and time. Space-time. What is it in the mind? Oh, please. What is it in the mind? This concept or notion of space-time.
I'm a little critical about the Einstein's concept of space-time because I'm following the Bergson's explanation. He was critical of Einstein too. In Einstein's space-time, time is very similar to space. It's
Really?
the fourth dimension. With similar characteristics as space, and this concept was introduced into a theory of relativity. It works quite well through mathematical formulas. It gives some results, and we
Up
can
to a
use
certain point.
But we still don't understand some deeper meaning. What does it mean? And a similar thing is also in quantum physics. There is quite a great lack of some deeper meaning, especially if we follow the Copenhagen interpretation. So Bergson, he said that we must reinvent the value of time.
Yes. He is one of the most intuitive scientists of our time. And he has some, would say, more talent on another dimension. And his life is very linked with movement of spiritual things, etc. But putting it outside, I would say that according to Bergson, the dimension of sensitivity is important. Meaning that science is not just a dry discipline. There is some kind of sensitivity of the scientist inside, which leads him to this concept of intuition.
Intuition, yes.
Intuition. What is intuition?
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Can we discuss about this?
Yes.
To skip out many wrong ideas and prejudice about the term.
Yeah, there are prejudices because many people think that intuition is just some idea which comes in one moment from somewhere, and this is intuition. But in fact, intuition is a continuous process which observing reality very calmly, in a broader sense than observing through some rational lines, because rational approach is always following some paths, but intuition is observing reality without any samples, so without any paths. It's just well, maybe we can explain like this. There is a tree, and there are squirrels jumping on the branches. So this is linear movement because they are following the branches. But then there are birds who are flying everywhere. So they are not attached to branches. Birds can go everywhere in space. So in such a sense, intuition is broader than intellect, because intellect is always following some lines, some paths which were trodden already before, so this is this linear thinking. But intuition is to be prepared all the time to go into something unknown, something totally new, without any ambition, without any ego, without any preconception, just to be in a state of consciousness, just to observe, to see the things as they really are. So
intuition, meaning getting the teachings from the inner.
Yes, yes, yes. The children are much better in intuition than grown-up people.
Because they don't have the intellect and the mind yet.
Yes, yes. The schools have not yet spoiled them. And it's important to say that all great artists, scientists, and so on, all of them were given great importance to intuition. So otherwise they could not invent new things.
I would like us to come back to this notion of consciousness. Consciousness is everywhere. We are the manifestation of consciousness. Everything is consciousness, everything living, and even the atoms are expression of consciousness at a certain level. The consciousness which is imprisoned in our mind now gets stuck in this preconditioned situation, so that this consciousness now gets disconnected with the whole one consciousness, right? I would like to draw the attention to the fact that when we dedicate ourselves to something, some ideal, some research, intelligently and not in a fanatical way, because to be fanatic is also in a kind of another prison. So when there's this dedication, when there's this love, this is openness of the mind towards the consciousness, the one consciousness. And it means that when we love, there is a very natural movement of the one consciousness, which is the manifestation of what is absolutely the highest, higher, whatever, to connect with us. So I think the world, as we know it now, really the world needs love. But love cannot be given as an object. I love you and I give you love. But the love should be inculcated in the mind of the learner. Many children or adults, the learner does not have an age, specific age, meaning that humans have now to learn the lesson of love, to deserve to reach this point of connection towards a greater mind, towards the one consciousness, which is called, in another terminology, just the divine, meaning the source and the origin of all of us. Would you share this point of view?
Yes, yes. So you explained it so beautifully that it's quite difficult to say something in addition. Well, this the divine consciousness, we are part of it, sure, and all the living beings in the universe are part of it, and even the atoms can be regarded as living beings, and there is a flow of constant flow of love between these beings. Everything is in vibration, in harmony. Also modern physics is somehow discovering similar things on the level of minute particles and complex structures. If we go maybe to the problem, to the question of happiness and bliss, it's possible only through understanding of this universal love, because bliss cannot be separated from other beings. Bliss is something universal, and it has no limits. It transcends one ego. Ego dissolves when there is this state of bliss. So bliss is possible only when also other beings somehow are in tune, vibrate similarly. And if we are to succeed in this, then we should not be so swift, so aggressive, so ambitious. But one point maybe it's important. We are in Europe, in America, we are all the time so afraid that our life would be difficult. We can freeze in the winter, we can starve when there is not enough food and so on. So we must strive, we must work, we must hurry all the time. But if the climate is agreeable, beneficious, then people and other beings, they can stop, sit down and observe others, and they can much easier come into this harmony. When we are striving not to just to survive, then it's much more difficult to get this harmony, because this is somehow emphasizes ego for the first one or the second one. People begin to push others in order to survive. But what is important to say is that modern society, in living in the cold region of the world, has, just because of achievements of science and technology and so on, they have come to the point when people could live so comfortably as they were living in India or warm countries, and they developed very harmonious societies in olden times.
The comfort, great comfort, and striving for comfort made as outcome very egoistic individuals.
We are able to
survive the thing.
To get that harmony, but we are pushing our energy into the wrong way.
Probably, I would say not wrong, but insufficient in understanding, because we have to go a step further.
We are not aware that we can already stop.
We don't want to be aware, because being aware means that we have to change.
Yeah.
And as we don't like effort, we don't want to change, we don't like to be aware. This is the thing. Now, you see, I don't think that people can resist for long. I mean that a new paradigm should be built up. And it is like small drops of mercury. If the more gathered, and they will swallow up the whole thing. And it means that change, big changes, will come all of a sudden by small changes on the local level. If we don't start on the local level, don't hope or expect the thing to come, meaning that everyone has a task to fulfill to that. But calling for shunyata, meaning the extreme, ultimate bliss, it is a big paradox, very, very, very big paradox, meaning that we know that it is the end there intellectually, but coming to the practical point, we don't want to be mingled to that because of the resistance of all the build-up of the conditioning in the past.
But here, I think that here we come to the question of sincerity.
Integrity of the individual. Yes. One has to stop lying to oneself. We agree about this.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Yes.
One has to stop to lie to oneself.
Yes.
And whenever we have a movement that is untrue in the mind, see it, observe it, testify for it, and change. Otherwise, there's no way to go out. We agree about this.
Yeah.
Very great. So integrity is the key word.
Yes.
If we don't have this integrity, never we can reach truth. Never we can come to reality. And in fact, without integrity, one cannot know what is love.
So all this is connected together, and
all connected together.
One must start from where he or she is.
Yes.
In this moment, in every small detail.
Very often I am asked the question, when do you think that it is most suitable to start? I said, now, when you ask the question.
Yes.
When the question is asked, it is the best moment to start. Well, let's live in the eternal and be happy and share this happiness with people and tell this to the people. Tell them that it is possible, provided that they want and they provide the effort.
I think that we are coming to the point when this is possible for everyone.
This is the consciousness evolving to the turning point. It is irreversible. But they should know. Otherwise, they are put on a brake on and then slow down the evolutional process. I am very happy to share with you all about this, and I don't know whether there is something to add here.